And when we are coming to the topic of the journal, I also want to talk about with you today, interpersonal violence in sports. What about this area? Is there enough support already? Do we need structures? What do we need to really help athletes to have help nearby and to know what to do, where to reach out to?
I think as a starter, we need to better equip our specialists, our specialty, with knowing what to do, because the athletes depend on us to know what to do next. And again, psychiatrists are very good with asking the questions and offering support and compassion, but not all of them know what to do with that information.
Yes.
If it is a regular minor in a regular mental health system, we know we need to report that. In the sports system, it's much more complicated.
Yeah.
It can be very similar with a minor athlete, but I mean, with an adult, there are all different types of avenues of consent necessary, and you know, legal requirements and confidentiality and pathways and protocols that need to be followed. So we need to know how to navigate that before we can help our athletes do that. And I think we, kind of the leaders in the field, can help with that as a next step, promoting education and awareness about what this is, what it looks like, how we find it, and what we do next.
Right. Right. And what needs to be done really on a practical level? I mean, you say then there must be information for the athletes, what to do, how to recognize, what to look for, and where can they find it already now? Is there something, and what has to be done next that they...
You know what I find is oftentimes they don't even recognize necessarily that they are experiencing harassment, abuse, and neglect, because it is just a part of the system, part of the culture. It's what everybody does. And it's often just ignored or dismissed as, oh, it's just the way that that person treats people. So part of our role would be helping them understand that they're actually experiencing that type of maltreatment, and then also knowing what to do with it. And what I also find is a lot of systems don't actually have pathways or protocols in place. Some say that they do, some symbolically do, but I think we're still very early on creating that.
How is it in Canada? How is it in Canada, actually? Do you have something?
It's very variable. You know, in the last number of years, I've talked about this topic in a lot of different forums. And I'll tell you a really neat story. In June 2020, I did a talk for our university sports annual general meeting, and it was attended by psychologists and athletic directors and some coaches and such. And it was about protecting our athletes. And following that talk, I got an email from a psychologist in Quebec, a different province, who was really inspired by that and really recognized that their system really didn't have something that provided the athletes a safe reporting mechanism. I received an email from her literally last week, year and a half later, almost 2 years later, saying that talk was a spark plug for me to develop something at our school. And I actually printed it because I find it quite inspiring and quite reinforcing that, you know, what the little things that we do can make a huge difference.
Wow.
So she created at her university this mechanism of prevention.
Awesome. Wow.
And it's a very comprehensive program, 20 odd pages of safe pathways for the athlete to follow, education for other people in the system to know what to do with that, so that along the way, the athletes are better protected and they know what to do. And it's, in fact, everybody in the whole system knows what to do. We need more of these things all over the world on every level.
That's great. Makes me goosebumps. What a wonderful person. She just got in action.
She did, and she did a lot of work, you know, almost 2 years, and it rolled out in March of this year. And it's things like that that make all this hard work worthwhile and tells me that it's worth it. We are making a difference, even if it's one system at a time, a cluster of athletes at a time. Any traction we can get in this is positive.
Yeah, so inspiring, so inspiring. Thank you. And what do you think does it need on an international level? I mean, the same story, I think. We change step by step, but now we're talking from Switzerland to Canada. That's so great. And anyway, the question also with huge organizations, I don't know, maybe the Olympic Committee, whatever, what does it need on an international level?
That's a great question. And it's a topic that's been, I think, superficially discussed at a number of different meetings, but I think right now we have an opportunity to we make our own individual differences in our own individual areas, but with our global network, try to make a difference globally. I mean, we all know stories about individuals who work with athletes in whatever capacity in various countries.
Yeah.
Then they run into difficulty based on bad behavior, and then they are released from their organizations, but then they show up in a different country, coaching or administrating or whatever. There's no way to track that. There's no way to warn the other countries that this person has engaged in this behavior, because right now there's no registry, there's no global registry. This is something that I've advocated for in a number of different platforms. There needs to be a way for the other people to know why they're leaving, why they're suddenly available, and what kind of track record do they have. The challenge, though, is when, you know, a lot of these cases don't go to court. They're not tried in a court of law. So the individuals are protected to a certain degree against defamation and slander, et cetera. So we can't just accuse somebody of having done something without it having gone through due process of proof, right? So this is why a lot of organizations will handle things internally. They'll, for PR or for the human resources purposes, just quietly let somebody go. But that, again, it doesn't solve the problem, because that person will then just go somewhere else, do the same thing, because they've never faced their consequences. Other people don't know that this has happened. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of understanding global law and what we can do with this. But at least, you know, we here in Canada, we have with our national sport organizations, some will publish on their website which coaches have been banned, for example, or what duration of time. They won't always say why. But at least if we have some sort of global registry of that sort, so that, you know, if I live in Switzerland and I want my kid to join a youth soccer team, I'm going to search that youth soccer organization to see if any of those coaches have had violations in the past. I want to know that. We can do that for physicians. We can do that for lots of other different professions.
True. Yeah.
We need to do that in sports.
Yes. 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 I agree. I did never think about that so detailed, but I totally agree. Thank you. Wow, I could probably talk hours to you and ask anything, and I will definitely come back. But the last question I want to ask you today is about the journal Sportspsychiatry, the issue interpersonal violence in sports. Would you mind to invite people watching now to contribute something? What is needed? What can they send? What can they?
You know, this journal is a great platform. This journal is a great platform for, you know, providing information about a lot of different topics. And I'm really excited about this article in particular, this journal volume in particular around interpersonal violence in sports. Again, it's an opportunity to educate more people about the different types that we see, the different levels that we've seen it in, whether it's youth sports, high performance sports, Olympic, whatever it is, anything that we can have to educate more people about what we see and how we approach it. I would love to see more about the downstream programming so that more of our readers can understand that natural transition between just, you know, identifying it to action. But literally, and anything we have written, we need more information about this in sports. You know, the IOC released a consensus statement in 2016 discussing non-accidental violence in sports, which I think was a great piece of literature to really explore all the different parameters, but we need to keep going with that. That was 2016. This is 2022. Let's keep the information coming. Let's find out what people around the world are doing, what you're seeing. Let's spread the word. Let's keep this momentum going. I can feel this. We have some energy here. Now's the time. Let's keep pushing.
Great, thank you. And you point out education is so important. I mean, for anybody, we really have to start with this, connect and educate and create platforms. Thank you so much, Carla. Anything to add at the end? Anything you want to say?
I think just for anybody who supports athletes, again, it is our responsibility to not stop. We are their last defense, really. We are, for some of them, their only hope. It's not enough to just sit in our chair and think that we're doing our part just by receiving the information. We have the obligation of taking it further. Run with the ball down the field. That is what we have to do. We cannot stop. You know, the athletes only have so much to give. We then need to take that and bring it forward. And I really want to empower you know, anybody who's working with athletes to really take that next step, find out what those policies and protocols are, and if they don't exist, make them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's push the boulder out of the way and let's keep going.